Now, back in March of this year, the Copyright Royalty Board upheld royalty increases that are pretty dramatic for anybody that's streaming music online. What are we talking about? Let's say, 4 or 5 times what satellite radio is paying, and terrestrial radio, traditional AM, FM radio, paying no fees whatsoever. Now, online radio is already paying the royalty rights for the songwriters. Now they're adding on performance rights, and it's probably going to put a lot of online radio companies out of business. Why? It's expensive, and 2, it's retroactive, going all the way back to 2006. Joining us now to talk about how this is impacting online music streaming sites, Tim Westergren, one of the founders of Pandora. Tim, thanks for coming out to talk to us.
My pleasure.
Today.
Thanks for having me.
You, I mean, Pandora, we've showed it to our viewers. They love it. It's popular online. It's a online music discovery site, very similar to one out of the UK, Last FM. It was obviously not going to be impacted by this royalty decision. Why is, I mean, is it flat out the expense? Is that the biggest concern about the royalty fees?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. These rates make webcasting, ad-supported webcasting, completely uneconomic. So, left unchanged, it will wipe it out completely.
Are they basically saying we want 100% of all the money you can possibly make online right now?
Pretty darn close, actually, approaching 70% of the gross revenue. So
we're looking at it. You're talking about, I guess it's like 0.0008 dollars, or,
right,
or 0.08 cents per song,
right,
for 2006.
That's the existing rate. And what recently happened with this ruling is, as of May 15th, that rate will, over the next few years, triple. And it's also retroactive, so the rates will have to be sort of paid for the last 17, 18 months for a large number of webcasters. So this decision was approved. Is it Soundcheck? Is that the name of the company? SoundExchange.
SoundExchange, right. Excuse me. So SoundExchange said they wanted this royalty rate for online radio stations. The Copyright Royalty Board said, great. Who's the Copyright Royalty Board?
It's an arbitration panel, so it's 3 judges from the Copyright Office that are charged with sort of resolving this. It was actually established a couple of years ago that there would be a 5-year rehearing and sort of a reconsideration of the rates. And so at this hearing, there was SoundExchange, which sort of was the proxy for the RIAA, and then there was a coalition of webcasters that argued the case in front of these arbitration judges. And they opted essentially to go with pretty much everything the RIAA wanted.
Was this kind of a oops? We didn't like, we asked for everything. Wow, they gave us everything. We didn't mean to kill off internet radio. We're really sorry, but we're not going to ask them to scale the fees back.
Well, it's definitely an oops if you ask me.
Right.
I don't really think they expected to get this. And I think if you read the ruling, there are a lot of pretty fundamental sort of problems with the rationale behind it, and I think how the decision was reached. But at this point, we have to take it for face value. They're defending the rates, and they think that web radio can afford it. So,
I mean, they think web radio can afford it. Where are they getting this idea? Because you guys aren't exactly making a lot of money at Pandora.
No, Pandora is losing money hand over fist right now, and these rates, as I said, will make any possibility of profitability, impossible. So, it's not. We have a team of 15 people whose full-time job right now is to sort of build our advertising revenue. And we could see our way to profitability, but it was going to take a while. We have venture investors that have sort of been willing to sort of support us while we do this, and could see our way to it maybe a year or 2 out. But you take this new rate and that just disappears. Why?
Does SoundExchange, I mean, you've said before, they didn't seem to expect to get this. Were they just looking to get sort of the same rate they were doing for satellite? I mean, because it seems like the numbers seem small, right? Like 0.08 cents per song, scales up to 0.019 cents per song. But you're factoring at times all of the people that are listening per performance on top of the existing songwriting royalties. I mean, are they gonna be sad if they completely lose this entire revenue stream?
Yeah, it's deceptive, because you're right. When you look at the per song stream, that fraction of a penny sounds like not very much money. But when you consider that webcasters stream hundreds of thousands of stations all day long, that adds up in a hurry. So the aggregate bill for a webcaster is just, doesn't work. And I think that, SoundExchange ostensibly is supposed to represent the interests of all musicians, including, the garage bands. I used to be in a band myself. I spent 10 years, doing the, drive around in a van thing. So these are my people,
right?
The folks that are trying to, trying to make a living, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find a significant number of them that would actually think this is a good idea.
I mean, it's interesting because if you don't sort of tell SoundExchange you want your royalties, they just kind of sit on them.
That's
They don't go and seek out the people they owe the royalties to.
Right.
But I mean, it's interesting. You know, it sounds like a small amount of money, but it's like AOL. Because AOL Radio had something like an average of 210,000 listeners in November of 2006, and their tab for November of 2006 works out to be something like $1.6 million. So it's little tiny pennies, but they scale really fast.
It's a big number, and I don't think there should be any sort of ambiguity about it. On May 15th, bills will come due for webcasters that represent more money than they've made since they started. And so starting that day, if things kind of continue as they are, they'll be faced with this choice, go dark, pay this enormous bill with no idea as to whether those rates will be fixed eventually. So it's not hyperbole to say that days are really, potentially a day when online radio will, disappear.
You're looking at shutting down, basically you're saying to me, you're looking at shutting down Pandora on May 15th, or fighting like hell between now and then. How do you fight something like this? Because the Copyright Royalty Board said it's great. Sound Exchange is like, woohoo! We're going to have one great year before the entire revenue stream, except for the 500 people that listen to like 96X and Salt Lake on the internet. Assuming even terrestrial radio stations don't decide to discontinue their online operations.
Well, we're a young industry,
right,
and that means a couple of things. One is we haven't been in DC for a long time. We don't have a PAC. We don't have a heavy lobbying sort of presence, which is not true of the record industry. And so our primary ally is listeners. And I think this is good old-fashioned call your congressman, grassroots campaign. Storm the ramparts kind of traditional political organizing. And the sort of remedy for this situation, which obviously isn't coming from the royalty board, is going to have to be legislative. So we've organized actually a group called Save Net Radio. There's a website called savenetradio.org. Webcasters, musicians, and I think the musicians are going to grow massively in number when they find out what's really happening here. And listeners, together, this group, the purpose of it is to raise awareness on Capitol Hill, and then when we do get a bill introduced, recruit sponsors, and then really sort of motivate congresspeople to support it, and turn back sort of the whole legislative complexity, the issues that underlie all of this.
Well, I mean, are you guys looking to sort of effectively change? Because I know you want musicians to make money. You want to pay royalties to musicians. You just don't want to. You just want to still have a business at the end of the month. I mean, how do you guys see affecting changing this? Or, are you looking to roll back the fees or change the entire fee structure? Or?
So we absolutely believe in paying royalties and have done from the beginning. And the motivation for starting this company in the first place was to connect musicians with listeners. And we love the fact that we write large checks that go mostly, half of it at least, to musicians on a monthly basis. We believe in that, want to continue doing it. And what we're really asking for is something I think very reasonable and simple, which is treat us like other radio, satellite call it. Allow us to pay a percent of revenue. Make the payments such that the economics of internet radio, which is this fabulous promotional channel, really for the vast majority, like 95+% of musicians, this is the only radio they get played on. Let it continue. Sure, let's allocate a reasonable number to musicians. They deserve it, and we celebrate what they make, but it has to be reasonable. That
brings up an interesting kind of idea, is that Soundcheck, who's collecting this, doesn't necessarily have a relationship with all of the basically people making performances. That's kind of interesting.
Well, that's not quite true, actually. So Sound Exchange's board has representation from labels, large labels, small labels, and artists. I believe there's not total agreement within that board. I'm not sure, but I would be surprised if there wasn't. I've heard there isn't. But they do represent supposedly a broad swath of artists.
So if I have a small independent, publishing label, I should probably contact Sound Exchange and ask them for my check.
Yeah, so
the
they actually,
so
they collect the money. So Pandora every month calculates all this, the songs that is played and writes a check to Sound Exchange. They turn around and distribute that money to artists, and they have mailing addresses for about half the musicians. So that onus is on musicians. I'm a musician. I know what musicians are like. Don't tend to pay enough attention to the business side of their careers, but when they realize this is important, they will, I think, join, and then Sound Exchange will start distributing monies to them.
So, you know, you guys have kind of started on the court route. Monday, an appeal, or basically the first attempt to overturn this was put down.
Right.
Are you guys going to keep fighting through the court system, or kind of go directly after the legislatures and stop, you know, trying to pursue a judicial remedy for this?
Right. So the royalty board, that's done.
Right.
No help there. Mm-hmm. Two more paths are left to us. One is legal, so that we can appeal this and will appeal this in the federal appellate court. That takes its own life, takes a while. Mm-hmm. In parallel, we really are focusing and believe sort of our greatest hope is in Congress. So we plan to introduce a bill fairly soon mm-hmm. to remedy this, and that will happen hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Save Net Radio Coalition. What's the website for that?
SaveNetRadio.org. And there is a petition on the website that we're encouraging people to sign.
Tim, thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, it's not just Pandora, it's Live 365. It's pretty much any online music effort. You enjoy listening to it, you enjoy having music availability streaming online, chances are it's going to go away May 15th, unless whoever's putting together that online radio station has a lot more money in their pockets than you might think. Do yourselves a favor, do us a favor, check the website, write your Congress critter, get active.